Well, welcome. Welcome to the MBLEx review course. My name is Jodi Scholes, and I am your instructor. And so I want to say welcome. Welcome to this class where we're going to be talking about guidelines to a professional practice. And the importance of guidelines to a professional practice is that it's 31% of your MBLEx. That means 3 out of 10 questions will be about business. Yup. You've got 2 sections, guidelines to a professional practice, and then also you have another section in your outline of ethics, boundaries, laws, and regulations. And we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to mix a few of those together today. But ethics, boundaries, laws, regulations, guidelines to a professional practice, that has nothing to do with hands-on. Has nothing to do with anatomy, right? Has nothing to do with client assessment. Although I guess, your intake form is one of the forms we'll be talking about today. But just know that 31%, so 31 questions on your test are going to be about business and guidelines to a professional practice. So that's why we spend 2 classes in our 8-week cycle. And today we're going to talk a little strategy. We're going to talk about a little test-taking strategy in our part 1. Then we're going to move into the learning. Like I said, it's going to be about guidelines to a professional practice. And then finally, we are going to do some dissecting of some questions. All right, let's look at our... All right, so we're at a time of year, and I'm not sure what time you're going to be hearing this, but for the students who are currently in class, we're at a time of year where we just had the summer solstice. So we just had the halfway point of the year. We had the longest day of the year. And also the end of a quarter is coming up. And so that makes me think about the end of a month is coming up, the end of a quarter is coming up. And that really makes me think about, where's your finish line? And that is the test-taking strategy I want to share with you today. I want to encourage you today to go ahead and register. Register for the MBLEx. Depending on the state you're in, you normally have 90 days from the time you pay your money to the time that you have to schedule your exam. Sometimes you can push that out a little bit depending on, where you live again, but 90 days. Even if this is your very first class, your very first lesson, your very first time starting to study for the MBLEx, 90 days, that's plenty of time. What it does require, though, there's a secret ingredient to be ready in 90 days. Want to know what it is? It's focus. It's staying focused. And your journey has been a perfect one, a perfect journey up until this point. It really has, even if it's been like this, right? And we've got an arrow here. And sometimes we want to go from point A to point B, all right? Point A to point B, and we want it to be a straight line, and we want it to go whoop, and here's our destination. And you know what normally happens? This is how it normally goes. So we think, I should just graduate massage school, boom, take the MBLEx. Practice. If that happened for you, if that happens for you, awesome. But for the majority of people, it's a bit more circuitous. So even if today is your very first time studying with me, studying at all, I still challenge you to go ahead and sign up for the MBLEx. Because 90 days, 12 weeks, plenty of time. This class goes in an 8-week cycle, and we have 2 more Thursdays left before we hit July, before we hit our next cycle. And so Decide what your finish line is. Decide when, put a date on the calendar. Write it down, grab a pen, write it down. If you're going to go 3 months, look at your calendar. Look at today's date. So we just happen to be in June. So June, July, August, September. So today is June 22nd. So 3 months from now would be September 22nd. If you're in January, February, March, April, count out your 3 months and write that date down. Put it down in front of you. Put it on a piece of paper. Put a smiley face. And consider, sit thoughtfully. What would it feel like to be licensed 90 days from now? Some of you have set a goal for 30 days from now and have asked me for the 30-day schedule. I'm delighted to share that with you. And also, I know that sometimes we bite off more than we can chew. And that's okay too. Honestly, it's a perfect journey, but the secret ingredient, the secret sauce, the magical formula, the magic wand is focus. Focus. That's it. And you're here in this class to help you focus, to help you understand what do you need to study. Because sometimes that can be part of the circuitous, the squirrely route, right? Oh, I thought I needed to study this, and I took the test, and I didn't pass. Ah! It's okay. Just as though we're still on the trajectory. We're still on the path. We just got a little, we had to pump the brakes a little. Yeah. Just had to pump the brakes a little. Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. So my challenge to you is to remember that at any point, if you feel off track, you can come back to that word, focus. This class, this time together, me, I'm like your accountability buddy. Yeah. If ever you feel off track, you can always restart from that place of focus. And I challenge you, as we wrap up this first section of class, to go ahead and register. Do it. Look, it's never a good time. There's never enough money. I've heard all the excuses. I know. What if? Register. Register to take the test. You'll feel a new fire in your belly that'll help you to focus. And I'm here too. I got your back. All right, you ready to do a little learning? Let's do it. All right. Slideshow. And here we are with our MBLEx review course. Today, we're going to be talking about standards of practice, just reviewing a few terms. And some of this stuff you may say, I don't know if I learned this in massage school, because we're going to be talking about businesses today. We're going to be talking about taxes today. You know, the end of a quarter. So at the end of the first quarter of the year, the first 3 months. So there are 12 months in a year. And if we divide the year into 4 quarters, just like basketball or football or other sports, that have 4 quarters, the first, so 4 divided into 12 is 3. So 3 months per quarter. So at the end of March, at the end of June, then we've got July, August, September. So at the end of September, and then we've got October, November, December, which is the 4th quarter. And at the end of the quarter, most of you guys will be paying a quarterly tax deposit. We'll be making a quarterly tax deposit. That may be the first time you're hearing that. You may not have learned this in massage school, but that's okay. These are a few of the things we've covered in the past. Today we're going to roll up our sleeves. If these things look new for you, go and check out some of our guidelines to a professional practice videos. Um, they're here in the patron community, and some of them are even on YouTube for free. So let's look at a couple of definitions. I'd just like to touch base with these to keep them rolling around in your mind, because these are definitions that can kind of come and go. And when I say come and go, they seem interchangeable. They seem like we use those words to define them, but I just want you to be familiar with the words. Principles. Principles, here you see this word, principles, are the rules or the laws of behavior. So the rules of behavior, my principles guide my actions. Let's see, the quote I have here is, I believe that respect and kindness are two of the most important principles that my parents taught me growing up. Principles. It's what we go back to behave with integrity. What is integrity? It is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. But integrity is being in our truth. It is the idea of being morally upright. I'm not sure what words you'll see on the MBLEx, but these are all words that relate to integrity. So what are the layers of integrity, or the levels of integrity? So keep your agreements, be true to yourself, be true to your principles. And you may also want to look at a book called The Four Agreements. One of the things in the very first agreement in the book by Don Miguel Ruiz, one of the very first agreements is be impeccable with your word. Oh, someone is saying we can't hear well. That's interesting. Anyone else having troubles hearing? Please put it in the chat. Thanks for letting me know. And okay, great. So who's ever on their Galaxy phone, feel free to sign out and come back, sign in. I'll let you back into the Zoom room. All right. So that is integrity. Keeping your agreements, doing what you say you're going to do, that's acting in integrity. Being true to yourself and your own principles. Those are some of the examples of integrity. Morals. This is a standard of basic beliefs. Aristotle, back in the day, back in the early ages, said moral excellence comes about as a result of habit. We become just by doing just acts. We become temperate by doing temperate acts. We become brave by doing brave acts. All of our good results, many of our good results. If you'd like to control your good results, control your habits. But morals are a standard of behavior. It's like, all right, that's against my morals to do X, Y, Z. And morals can be a word that is laden with emotion. That can be layered with emotions, because when we talk about morals, sometimes you've heard that through whatever religious organization that your family or you are affiliated or were affiliated with. And so it can be like a kind of a word that's laden with, lined with emotions like guilt or shame. But morals, that word in and of itself, that actually is neutral. So you get to decide what is your moral standard, what's acceptable for you. And it's different for different people. I mean, for I like to use different examples. Let's see. So, hmm. So let's just use food for an example. There are some people who have a vegetarian lifestyle because it's against their moral beliefs to harm animals, to harm any animal with parents. That's a pescatarian, I think, would be technically. But a vegetarian just has chosen to have a diet that eats no meat. And for some vegetarians, it's a moral decision. I think that's a great way. Some people recycle, some people don't. Who's right, who's wrong? Well, that's a different conversation. But being true to your own compass, having integrity with your morals will help you to decide whether you recycle all the time or you don't. Values, let's move on. Values are the principles and beliefs that influence a group. And values usually govern a community. So maybe you live in a community, and in that community you have values, and you make rules and laws based on those values. So rules and laws are codified. There's a code of conduct. But it's based on this underpinning that, hey, we all think this way, right? We all are going to agree that we'll put our trash cans out, the night before the trash guy comes. We won't put them out 2 days before the trash guy comes. They're not going to be taken away. We'll take our trash cans in within 24 hours. That's just a value. It's a principle, a belief that we codify into laws and rules. Values tell us what's desirable, what's undesirable. And usually the key there is a group. A couple more definitions before we move into laws and taxes. Standards of practice. We're going to have about two different points of view on this. A standard of practice and a scope of practice. We talk about these two things together because if and when you see them on the MBLEx, you want to be super clear what question you're getting. Is it about the standard of practice or is it about the scope of practice? So let's talk about standard of practice. The standard of practice is the standard. When I worked with US track and field, we were in an Olympic qualifying year, and in the Olympics, they have a standard. You have to run this fast to actually go to the Olympics. So it's not just anybody from any country, say you're from a very small country, you're from Papua New Guinea, and you just want to go to the Olympics, but and no one else in your country is trying to go. And you run a 20-second 100-meter. Does that meet the standard? The Olympic officials are going to ask, does that meet the standard? Have you run at least this fast? And if you haven't, then you don't qualify. Running the Boston Marathon, there's a standard. It's different for every age group, but you have to run at least that fast to qualify. So a standard of practice is the minimum, is like, we all agree that there's going to be a standard. We're going to be better than, this is where we stand on. So actually what we stand on, right? Stand. This is what I stand for. So the standards of practice, it's a benchmark of excellence, and there's a whole category of them. We do a class on the standards of practice, and they come from the NCB TMB, so the National Certification Board of Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork gives us our standards of practice. There's 6, and it's how to operate within these guidelines, within these business practices. Oh, who is the NCB TMB? Good question. Have you heard of them? there's not much talk about NCBTMB these days, but I want to bring it to your attention. It's an organization that is a certifying organization. It's a part of a larger entity called the AMTA, the American Massage Therapy Association, as is like the Massage Therapy Foundation. They are the home of a number of different organizations, but NCBTMB offers a board certification. They are specifically involved with certifying continuing education, as well as board certification for massage therapists. Who knew? You actually can be board certified. How cool would that be, huh? Now, you can't get it until you've practiced for a little while, but this is another national association, and it's lovely to have that on your business card, that you're board certified. There's another test, but you don't have to take it right away. It's focused on massage therapists, on recognizing massage therapists who have done more than the minimum amount of requirements to practice massage. So once you've taken some continuing ed, that's when, so like give yourself a couple years. I mean, you're allowed to go ahead and become board certified, especially if you feel comfortable taking another test and you've got experience with maybe another area of expertise, like a personal trainer, a nurse, physical therapist. You may want to become right away a board certified massage therapist. Let's see, they offer board certification, and they also officially determine who is qualified. So one day, if you want to teach, you can teach at a school, you can teach at a massage school. So you want to teach massage or something to do with massage. You can teach at a massage school, you can teach at a conference, or you can become independently accredited. And the National Certification Board of Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork certifies independent teachers who want to teach on a particular subject. And you've got to submit a curriculum and learning outcomes, all that stuff. It's also good to look at an organization called the AFMTE. All right, and that's the, I'm going to put that in here. AFMTE is now in the chat. And the AFMTE is the Alliance for Massage Therapy Education. And a lot of teachers and schools belong to the AFMTE. I want to mention a couple of the standards. We're going to go through 3, I think, but standards of practice. So this is a standard. Before we leave here, before we leave the NCBTMB, we're talking about the category of standards of practice, but I also mentioned scope of practice. And so the scope of practice are the things you're allowed to do as a licensed massage therapist. And for the MBLEx, one of the entry-level questions that's been asked is, are you allowed to diagnose a condition? And that is false. You are not allowed to diagnose. You're not allowed to diagnose a condition, and we're not allowed to diagnose, to prescribe any medications. That's not within the scope of what we're allowed to do. So we're going to talk a little bit about the standards of practice, but make sure you're reading the question properly, right? Standard of practice or scope of practice. Are we allowed to give nutritional advice? Are we allowed to suggest exercises? Technically, on the MBLEx, no. Not unless you have another degree. Or you have another certification. If you're a personal trainer, tell them what exercises and stretches to do all day long. But that's not in the scope of our practice as massage therapists. And there are many massage therapists who do talk about nutrition, who do talk about stretching, who do talk about exercise. But technically, it is out of the scope of our practice Therefore, on the MBLEx, please understand that we are not allowed to do those things. All right. So let's talk about professionalism, because professionalism is a funny word. Professionalism is the category. We want to, these words. So the words that sometimes get confusing, and this has, again, been on the MBLEx, is the idea of you are a massage professional. You want to, the standard of practice is professionalism. So standard, we have a certain level of professionalism that includes how you dress, how you speak, the forms you use. Professionalism. You are a licensed healthcare professional. A professional is a person. You have the career, the job. You have the profession of being a massage therapist, right? So you have the profession, which is your job. You are a licensed healthcare professional. But the standard of practice is professionalism. Being a professional, we're bringing a high standard to our practice. So we're demonstrating excellence in our practice. And we do that by providing responsible, compassionate touch. So like I mentioned, how you dress is a sign of your professionalism. Some people like to wear scrubs. Some will have a t-shirt. Some will have a staff shirt. Being intentional with how you dress. Personally, if I'm seeing a client at their home, I'm dressed all in black. I just want no distractions. And you may not have your own staff shirt. You may not have your logo or your name on your shirt. Although putting a name on your shirt is really easy to do, to get done. Be intentional is my point about how you dress. Your shorts, your pants, the dresses that you wear. The length of the dress, this is not for the MBLEx, this is for you personally. Below your fingertips. If you choose to wear a skirt, you wear a kilt, you wear shorts. When your arms are hanging down by your side, whatever you're wearing on the bottom is longer than that. All right, let's talk about some legal and ethical requirements. Yay! So you gotta abide by the laws of the land, boys and girls, men and women, ladies and gents. You gotta comply. And guess who's responsible for knowing what the laws are? You are. When I first opened my practice, I was in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I'd gone to school in Washington, D.C., was working with DC United and U.S. Track and Field in that area. DC United is a soccer team, a professional soccer team. But my private practice was in a town called Vienna, Virginia. So I had the Commonwealth of Virginia. I had the county, Fairfax County. I had, there's one more in there. I had the town of Vienna. And there was one more. But I had to look at all of these things. I had to look at, okay, I have to be licensed, nationally. So nationally, I had passed my national exam. I had gotten licensed by the Commonwealth of Virginia. They had a rule book. Fairfax County had a rule book. The town of Vienna had a rule book. Well, I didn't even think that the town of Vienna would be different. I thought as long as I'm complying with Fairfax County, they'll be in sync, right? Nope. Not only was there additional paperwork I needed to fill out, but I needed to get a business license for Fairfax County, and I needed to get a business license for the town of Vienna. So never mind my professional licenses. I had to get business licenses. I share that story with you because it is up to you to figure out what you need to, how to practice. Um, and sometimes people have said, "Oh, well, I prefer to beg for forgiveness versus ask permission." Well, guess what? Not with the law. Yeah, not with taxes, not with the law. You got to actually follow the rules. And you'll see that there are still some states that don't have requirements to practice, but that doesn't matter. Standards of practice. Yes, so it's Vermont, actually, Kansas has been licensed, Oklahoma has been licensed, Wyoming is still unlicensed, and Minnesota. So there are only 3. This map is a little out of date. But even if your state doesn't require, say, for example, in fact, California just recently started licensing people without having taken the MBLEx. That's a moving target over in California. It's crazy. But here's the point. Many counties and many cities, before they will give you a business license, before they will give you a permit to practice massage, you need to have passed the MBLEx. It is the standard. Now, in New York and in Hawaii, they have their own tests. So you can take the MBLEx, but you still have to take another test to practice in New York or in Hawaii. I know, look at all these legal things, huh? All right. I want to move through confidentiality because y'all know, just keep your mouth shut. You don't talk about what people say on the table. We need to get into, what you do need to know though is confidentiality is a legally binding agreement. It is a part of the 1996 Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. So HIPAA. You hear about HIPAA laws and, keeping client records. Yeah, so keeping those client records confidential. It's a law. It's not just, that's best practices. That's a standard of practice. It's actually the law. The only time you can talk about what a client has told you outside the treatment room is if a child could be harmed. So if child abuse or harms against children have been discussed, then you do need to report that. And depending again on your city, on your county, on your state, is where that gets reported. But otherwise, you don't get to talk about it. And a good rule of thumb in life, again, it's a little outside the MBLEx, but a good rule of thumb in life is tell the story or use the name, one or the other, not both. So don't talk about people. Well, legally, we can't talk about our clients, but just don't talk about people. Talk about issues. Talk about science. Talk about a book you read. Talk about a newspaper article. Talk about a recent discovery. Talk about the planets. Talk about your hobbies. There's a million different things to talk about. Pick a few. But let's not talk about people. So here we are, business practices. All right, this is where we're going to get into the meat of it. Well, we're already in the meat of it, but I'm going to dig down a little on stuff you may not have seen in school. All right, so this is business practices, practicing with honesty, integrity, lawfulness, no matter how you practice. If you're going to do massage at people's homes, you're going to be a mobile massage therapist. Maybe you're going to do seated massage. Maybe you're going to work for someone in a practice that already exists. Maybe you're going to work for a franchise. I strongly recommend that you work for somebody for at least 3-4 months, 6 months after you get licensed. It's way, way easier. Way easier. Now, if you have good business skills, maybe you already have your own business, let your inspiration be your guide, honestly. Then you've got the skill set. But most, I would say 8 out of 10, yeah, I would say 8 out of 10 massage therapists don't have business skills. Yeah. And so go work for somebody for a little while. Just give yourself a little break. Let somebody else do all the marketing and pay for all the sheets and answer the phone and, all that stuff. Yeah. All right. But in any case, let's talk about a few more definitions. Definitions that you very well could see on the MBLEx. Copyright. So copyright infringement is using someone else's words or images or ideas and pretending they're yours or not giving them credit. So now and then you'll see me at the beginning of our class thanking a doctor, thanking Trail Guide to the Body, thanking Anatomy Trains, thanking Shri Sonam Mo, some of these authors or publications, because I want to give them credit for what they've given me permission to use, so that I don't have a copyright infringement. Infringement means, ooh, gone over the line there. So you definitely need permission, or you can use websites like Unsplash or Pixabay. These are two sites that Pixabay or Unsplash, they have free images. So if you need to find an image for something, for a piece of advertising, or maybe for a post that you want to do, on a social media account for your profession, then you can go to one of those services that have free images. Because if you're using it for business, that means you're using it for profit. And you want to be careful about those copyright infringements. Let's talk about intellectual property. So someone else created it. It's someone else's intellectual property. And it's a legal concept. So these are, common examples: copyrights, trademarks, patents, industrial, intellectual property, books. So things that are copyrighted, things that are trademarked, this is considered intellectual property, and this is also something that we can't steal, someone else's intellectual property. We can be given permission to use it. In the business class that's coming up, I have a multi-therapist handbook. I have got a policies and procedures manual. And the policies and procedures manual has been copyrighted, but I give it to you as a part of being in the class, a part of being a patron. In fact, if you're interested in it, just hit me up in the messages and I'll be happy to send you a copy. It was the policies and procedures manual I used in my clinic. And I had 20 employees, 20 therapists. We had 5 treatment rooms. We were open 7 days a week, 3 receptionists. And so we ended up, as we grew, all of these policies that were just an agreement between me and you, or between me and one person, everybody had to agree. So, but that's an example of intellectual property. A policies and procedures manual, I give permission for you to use it, but if you were looking for it, you couldn't steal it from someone else. You'd have to get permission to use it. Logos, you can't put Nike on the front of your door. You can't put a Nike swoosh on the front of your door to imply that you are endorsed by Nike. Make sense? All right. Let's take a look at employees versus independent contractors. So employees have taxes taken out of their check. Let me take a step back. Most of you have been an employee for someone. You've gotten a paycheck, you've got a pay stub, tells you what taxes were taken out. The owner matches some of your taxes. Some of you may have been an independent contractor where you were paid for a specific project. You were brought on as seasonal help. All right, but let's look at the difference. So employees have taxes taken out of their checks, and at the end of the year, so sometime in January, you are sent a form called a W-2. And the W-2 tells you how much taxes have been taken out of your check. Now, massage therapists, y'all are massage therapists. We're kind of a non-conformist bunch. And often I hear massage therapists saying, "Oh, no, I don't want to be an employee. I don't want taxes taken out of my check. I don't want any money taken out of my check." Slow your roll there for a second, cowboy, cowgirl, because guess what? The employer will match part of your taxes. That means you have a less tax liability. Stay with me here for a minute. So being an employee has a huge advantage. That W-2 tells you what you can get as a refund. Yeah, that's like an extra paycheck every year. That could be, depending on how much you work, that tax refund could be like being paid for 13 months of work. Could be a month of your salary. Again, depending on how much you work. It's like automatic savings, sort of. Look, savings account don't pay much interest anyhow. Being at peace of mind, being calm and peaceful about paying taxes, that has its advantages. But let's look at the independent contractor. So the independent contractor at the end of the year, sometime in January, will get a form called a 1099. So 1099, instead of saying like the W-2 says how much taxes were taken out, the 1099 will tell you how much you've earned. And the 1099 is what you get taxed on. Now, I hear some of you are like, "Oh, but I've got deductions. I can deduct part of my car payment, part of my rent, my cell phone." You can. You can. Or your tax prep person can, an accountant or somebody from H&R Block. They can. And that might work out for you. But typically, we're taking the standard deductions because they're usually a little bit more than what we can provide receipts for. Again, I'm not a tax planning attorney. I'm not a tax planning official. So that's out of the scope of my practice. My experience has been, though, that there's a peace, a calm, a peace of mind about being an employee. And there's a false sense of being paid more as an independent contractor. That's just philosophically. What you need to know for the MBLEx, the independent contractor gets a 1099. There's a few business entities that you'll want to be familiar with. The term sole proprietor. So the sole proprietor is when you pass the MBLEx and you start getting paid to do massage, you are a sole proprietor. You didn't have to fill out any forms. Nobody really knows you exist yet. You just got started. You're going to report all of your income. You're going to report all of your income on your tax return. Yes, a sole proprietor. You don't need it's and you file a tax return with your social security number. Difference. Say you go into a partnership. Partnership is at least two people. They're easy to form. You don't actually have to file anything with the state, but both partners, we'll just talk about a partnership of two, they become liable for lawsuits. Now, regarding taxes, the partnership needs to schedule with a form called a K-1. So that has been a question on the MBLEx, if you can believe it. I know. Why in the world, if you're not going to have a partnership, would you need to know that partnerships file a K-1? You just need to know. Okay. And With a partnership, you normally, let's say it's 50-50, but sometimes it's 70-30. Sometimes if there's 3 people, it's, 33 and a third for all 3 people. And so there's a fixed proportion of the amount of taxes that a partner will pay that is equivalent to their ownership of the partnership. LLC, a limited liability company. There is a form to fill out for this. The benefit of an LLC, personally, I'm Jodi Scholes, LLC. There is a protection of my personal assets from lawsuits. I do get qualified to get an EIN, which is an employee identification number, as an LLC, so that I have an employer ID number, but often my taxes, I don't need to file with my EIN. I can actually file with an LLC with my Social Security number. The LLC becomes a thing on its own, even though it's still me. But taxes are just like a sole proprietorship. Let's take a look at 2 other entities before we switch gears and move into dissecting some questions. So the S Corp and the C Corp. You may be asked about these on the MBLEx, I'm telling you. All right. So the S Corp is an independent legal identity. Both of these are, in fact, when I had my business, when I had my massage clinic, it was called the Northern Virginia Massage Center, and we were a C Corp. And that was an entity of itself that existed, and actually, and it was sold. I actually sold that company, so it existed by itself. And after 14 years in business, I sold it. So the S Corp and the C Corp are something that you can sell. They have assets. The owners report on the S Corp. The owners report their share of the profits in their tax return. And the C Corp, the corporation is taxed. There's a corporate tax. And pretty much the rest of it is the same. You got to hold an annual meeting. With the S Corp, there's a limit on the number of shareholders. On the C Corp, there isn't. But I just want you to be familiar with these terms so that you have an idea of when you see this, if you see this on the MBLEx, that it's not the first time you're seeing it. But we're going to use our test-taking strategies and eliminate wrong answers, right? So we're going to eliminate wrong answers. So hopefully, by knowing just a little bit about an S Corp and a C Corp, you'll be able to qualify or disqualify that answer as potentially the best answer to the question. A quick review on the tax forms. A sole proprietor could be considered. So the sole proprietor may give themselves a 1099 if I'm an individual, but independent contractors get a 1099. So that 1099, please associate that with an independent contractor. But sole proprietors, limited liability, we can all show up and do contract work. So if someone else is paying us, we get a 1099, but it's mostly for independent contractors. All of my income as a sole proprietor, all of my income as an LLC goes right onto my individual tax return. Now, an employee gets a form at the end of the year, and it's a W-2. Not to be confused with the W-9. If you have been an employee and you fill out that paperwork that gives it your name and your address and how many deductions, your social, you declare that you're legal to work in the United States, that's called a W-9. And that form is filled out by the employee so that the employer knows you're a legal beagle to work. And then partnerships fill out the K-1. 2 last terms: tax evasion and tax avoidance. These are, one is a crime, the other is highly desirable. Tax evasion is deceiving the government. So if you are charged with tax evasion, and people have gone to jail for tax evasion, in fact, Al Capone, the famous gangster, right? Head of the mafia. He didn't go to jail for any for being for shooting anybody or stealing money or selling drugs or alcohol. He went to jail for evading taxes. That's the only thing they could get him on. So tax evasion is when you intentionally deceive the government about how much money you're making. Tax avoidance is being aware of the tax laws that help you take advantage of tax breaks and that legally minimize your tax liabilities. All right. Oh, we have a few more forms. We can breeze through these. It's a big class today. So you're familiar with the health intake form. This is something that all clients fill out on their first visit and is updated with every client visit. SOAP notes, this is when we subjective, objective, assessment, and treatment plan. SOAP, it's an acronym. And that's the notes that you make on what the signs and symptoms of our clients are, our objective look at what do we see. Assessment is done after the treatment, and we assess what we found, as well as the treatment plan is on our notes to say what is our best, what is our opinion? What's our best guess? What's our opinion? Yeah. And I challenge you, again, not only to register for the MBLEx, but I challenge you to reschedule your clients. Reschedule them right there and then. Offer your opinion. Offer them an opinion and use those words, in my opinion. In my opinion, you'll be ready for your next massage in 2 weeks. In my opinion, you'll be ready for your next massage in 4 weeks. You guys, it's always, almost always 2 weeks or 4 weeks. Pick one. It'll make a difference in your bottom line. Other business forms that you want to be familiar with is a consent to treat, and this is normally for a minor. Informed consent is, you may feel more comfortable using an informed consent for glutes, for pregnancy massage. We have a pregnancy waiver here. They sign if the client is pregnant. And in the slide, it says high risk only. High risk, you don't do the massage. So that is incorrect. Every client signs it who's pregnant. And in some cases, our office forms may not be enough to protect us. In some cases, the client will need to have a doctor's note that says they're okay to get massage. So that's those contraindications, the general contraindications, uncontrolled high blood pressure, recent whiplash, these types of things. And professionalism encompasses these requirements as well. Make sure your office is clean and neat and it's in a safe place, especially if you're going to be working from home. Just make sure that it feels safe. You got to have liability insurance. If you become a member of the AMTA, ABMP, that comes with liability insurance. Otherwise, whoever provides your health, life, an AFLAC person can provide disability, maintain adequate liability, business liability insurance. Do your SOAP notes, make sure you know what you're charging. You're not charging different rates for different people unless it's clearly displayed. If you decide you want to give veterans a discount, good for you. Is it just veterans? Is it all military? Coast Guard, space program? Is it military families? Is it just the military's nuclear family? Wife, kids? Or is it anyone? Their parents? So having your fee schedule clearly defined is important. File your taxes, keep your tax records for up to 7 years, for 7 years or more. These are considered best practices. Woo! That was a little longer than I thought. All right. Sorry, it's just 1 o'clock right now, so we're supposed to be ending class right now, but I've got a few questions for you. So if you could hang in there with me, let's do some questions. All right, but let's do a little arm circle here. So thumbs up, and forward. So arms are out by your side, thumbs are up, and we're doing forward circles. All right, do backward circles. Roll those shoulder blades back, roll those scapulas. Yeah. All right, shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. Our next section. These are definitions. Year-end wage and tax statement to submit with individual tax return for any independent contractor wages in excess of $600, equivalent to a W-2. All right, what is the year-end wage and tax statement to submit with tax return for any independent contractor wages in excess of $600, the equivalent of a W-2? All right. Milka's already throwing her hat in. Oh, I see. We got it. Okay. Very good. Galaxy, you're going to need to let me know who you are if you would like a copy. And Perdita, yes. In fact, I'll put it in the patron. I'll put it on the patron site. All right. So Milka jumped in there. Oh, we got other people. Let's see. Yes. So we're going to go through the exercise of eliminating a wrong answer. And we can eliminate one of these answers. I'm going to eliminate letter A. Oh, I eliminated C. Okay. We know it's not a pay stub, I guess. But the equivalent of a W-2 is not the W-2. So it's not W-2, it's not pay stub. And I see a number of you in the chat have already put the correct answer. And yes, it's letter B, 1099. So a year-end statement for independent contractors, equivalent to a W-2. Now, if you make less than $600, you don't have to actually be given a 1099. Good to know, right? A year-end wage and tax statement to submit with individual tax return, equivalent to a W-2 for a member of a business partnership in a company. Okay, what are you seeing in there in that question? A year-end wage and tax statement. Okay, we learned about those today. You guys are getting it. Let me see who got it. Angie got it. Ensley got it. Tanya got it. So for those of you who are going, wasn't this the same? Isn't this just the same question that we just had? It is not the same question we just had. So let's eliminate a wrong answer. Yes. So Ensley says get rid of D. All right, so D is gone. So of those three, now the equivalent to a W-2, so we know it's not W-2. So B or C, how can you choose? A year-end tax? Did I put two questions in there that are the same? I did not. All right, the correct answer is letter C, K1. And here's why. Partnership. Business partnership. Watch, they'll sneak that in on you on the MBLEx. They will sneak it in on you, but you're prepared. This should be filled out by an independent contractor. Oh, it should be filled out by independent contractors to provide employers with your social security number so they can issue you a 1099. Let's see. Well, we know. Anybody want to throw out what we can eliminate? Ansley, you're on there. Let's eliminate one wrong answer. So we get a W-2. We don't fill it out, right? We're as an employee, we get a W-2. So we can get rid of that. Of these three, what do you think? Milka says eliminate an I-9. Yeah. If you've ever had to fill out an I-9, we haven't even talked about the I-9, right? All right, what else? What else can? All right, I see a few people putting their answers in the chat, so let's go ahead and reveal. The correct answer is, should be filled out by an independent contractor to provide employer with social security number is a W-9. W-9. So that is, so you just check the box, yes, I'm a citizen. I-9 is proof of citizenship. They're taking a picture. Let me not tell you what an I-9 is because I'm not sure I know. I think I know, but I'm not sure. I didn't check that. So let's move on to the next question. Individuals who provide services or perform activities for a company, but like room renters, are not employees of the company. Okay, make it a little easy for you this week. Can we get rid of one wrong answer? Let's get rid of employees because it says they're not employees. But this is what the MBLEx will do to you. It'll be like, wait a minute, employees is one of the answers. They're not employees. It's a distractor. So who are individuals that provide services or perform activities for the company, but like room renters are not employees? Is it contracts, seasonal help, independent contractors? Yay! Angie said eliminate A. You're right, because it doesn't make any sense. And Milka and Tanya and Ensley, they all showed you. Boom. Independent contractors. Yes. So individuals who provide services, but they're not employees, like people who rent a room, like at salons when they rent a chair, are independent contractors. Yolanda, you're on it. All right, I believe this is the last question. Being aware of tax laws can help you take advantage of tax breaks and legally minimize your tax liabilities. What does this describe? A, tax evasion. B, tax avoidance. C, legal entities. D, sole proprietorship. Milka and Enzia, they're like on fire. Let's get rid of one wrong answer. Not a sole proprietorship. Being aware of tax laws can help you take advantage of tax breaks and legally minimize your tax liabilities. Eliminate A. Yes, Angie says, nope, it's not tax evasion. So it is letter B, tax avoidance. So yes, so take a look at the question again. Being aware of tax laws. So this is where these words start to get all mixed in because who is aware? So who is aware of the tax laws? Legal entities are aware of the tax laws. Yeah, exactly. But tax avoidance. So being aware of tax laws helps you take advantage of tax breaks and legally minimize your tax liabilities. Woo-hoo! Good job. It's 1:11. It's almost kind of like half 11:11. So we can make a wish. But great job today. Great job today. Thank you so much for hanging in there. I know some of this stuff can be boring, heavy, and yet these are just things that hopefully we're brushing off. We're pulling out a few manila files in the filing cabinet in your brain. that these things were maybe misfiled, and these, now we've got the dust off of them. You're fresh, you remember them. And as you enter into the MBLEx, when these business questions come up, you can have a calm confidence to that you can determine the best answer. So my name is Jodi Scholes. I'm going to wrap up the recording. I am your instructor for the MBLEx review class. Thanks so much for being a part of this session. And thanks so much for being part of the patron community. I super appreciate it. And again, I'll see you next week, or I'll see you real soon. Oh, I should have stopped the share, right? Let me say that again. My name is Jodi Scholes. I'm your instructor for the MBLEx review class. I'll see you again real soon.